I said it's one of those situations where it's better. I kind of conned myself into, you're not actually lying, you're just not telling the truth. And
Right.
I convinced myself that that was better than actually doing the harm. And one of the biggest reasons that I ended up coming out as I did was because I was forced out by an uncle of mine who found out online. And so, yes, it did hurt my parents, and the relationship was very strained with some really odd and hurtful things said early on. That's been a couple of years ago. Now, things are never going to be normal or back to the way they were, but things are close to normal. And there were some agreements made that, we're just, they had to come to grips in their mind that, yeah, this is still our son and we still love him, and okay, we're convinced that he's working for Satan and trying to convince other people to join him in hell, but we want to love him anyway. So that's what's going on in their head, and mine is telling me how much you believe in Jesus is not going to make me believe in Jesus. If you believe there's a God and that he answers prayer and that he'll reveal himself to anybody who asks, then the best thing that you could do instead of preaching or stressing or worrying is to pray that he'll reveal himself to me, because I'm not going to deny it if he does. I might not worship him, but I'll at least believe in him.
Well, the concept of intercessory prayer to me is just insane anyway, because if God has his mind made up and his will is perfect, then who the hell are you to ask him to change it?
Yeah.
If you believe in it. So I don't understand. I used to pray too, but now that I've stepped back, I think why would I pray? If I believe God, everything's for the greater good, then I have no right to ask something, to be changed.
Yeah, unless the greater good includes you asking. But anyway, we don't want to go down the track. Anyway, I can't say you'll know when the time is right, because that might not be true. I can't tell you anything other than what happened with me, and tell you that the best thing you can do is partly what you're already doing. Be yourself. But there are so many people who leave religion and then end up feeling alone because everybody around them is religious. And one of the reasons that the ACA exists and why we have so many events and things like that is so it's not just so we can sit around and bash Christians, although I'm sure we'll do some of that tonight, but it's so that people who would ordinarily feel alone because they're not part of this extremely large majority, and they're also looked down upon and have their rights infringed upon by this majority. So those people have somebody like-minded to share time with. And so finding not just an atheist group, but a secular, free thought, ethical, humanist, whatever group in your area, any group you find that keeps you active with like-minded people where you're not ostracized for something you believe is beneficial.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those there are around here, but I appreciate your time. And
well, you're welcome to move to Austin. You're always welcome to move to Austin.
Oh, thanks.
Live music, capital of the world, beautiful weather.
All right, well, I'll consider it then.
All right, thanks a lot, Amy. We appreciate the call.
Have a good night. Thanks.
You too. And I'm still doing all the talking.
That's all right.
So, Debbie, how are you?
Hi there.
You're from Florida too. I'm good.
Good.
I'm tired.
I've been watching your program on YouTube, and I've been enjoying it very much.
Well, thank you.
And I thought I'd call because I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things that bother me about religious people. And the first thing that bothers me about them is that when you tell them that you don't believe in God, they tell you to go read the Bible. And what puzzles me is that all you have to do is read the first few sentences of the Bible to know that this is a book of fiction. And what good is it going to do to read more of the Bible and read more stories of more fiction? How is that going to convince you that the Bible is true?
Yeah, if I eat one bad apple and I throw up, how is eating the whole barrel going to do me any good?
Yeah. So, all you have to do is read the first few lines of Genesis. God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, and if you're using your good critical thinking skills, hey, this is a book of fantasy because it defies the laws of physics. Yeah. And then if you go on and read about the rib and the apple and the snake and on and on, well, fantasy plus one fantasy does not equal a reality. A fantasy plus a fantasy equals two fantasies. And it's just, I apply the same logic as when I read, for example, Cinderella, and I read about the fairy godmother, and then I realize immediately, hey, this is a book of fantasy. I don't need to keep reading the book to realize that this is a book of fantasy and listen about the pumpkin and the coach and the mice and being changed into white horses. I get right away that this is a book of fantasy because it defies the laws of science.
I will though say this. For things like fables, there's a moral to the story. You do get something out of it. But the point is that moral is true, irrespective of the story.
Yes.
And its truth is evident with no dependence upon the story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true in whatever context is true. Right. And it's not true in whatever context it's not true.
That's right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm hearkening back to my philosophical debate, but go ahead.
I mean, I have never read the Bible other than a few words here and there because I was miraculously, if I may use the word, spared being raised in any kind of religious environment. My parents were not atheists that I know of. I've never had a religious discussion with my parents ever, but religion was never, ever mentioned in my family. So I never went to church, I never went to Sunday school, and I never read the Bible.
And oddly enough, you're an atheist.
Well,
right?
Yes.
And see, I did read the Bible, I did go to church, and I was raised religious, and I am an atheist.
That's right.
So see, we got there two different paths.
No, this is
different paths.
This is making me laugh because I responded to an email tonight, and one of the things somebody had said was something about people's inherent, their inherent belief in a creator God. And I said, if people inherently believed in a creator God, why do we have to indoctrinate them as children?
That's right.
If you don't indoctrinate them, maybe they don't. We won't know until people stop indoctrinating them.
But I tried for years to find a religion that made sense to me, and I investigated several different religions, and none of them made sense. And finally I realized about a year ago, hey, I'm an atheist. And I'm kind of resentful that it took this long to come to that realization because there's this atheist taboo in our culture.
All right, Debbie, I got to cut you off. We only got 45 seconds left in the show. I understand the frustration. I went through it as well. And just you can get over it because things happen and you are who you are because of it. There's the crew. Thanks to them. Thanks for everybody for being so patient. Thanks to everybody who sat through this long, drawn-out discussion. We may or may not ever do this again, depending on response. But we'll be back again next week. Don't forget about the upcoming pub crawl. We'll be down at Threadgills, which I neglected to mention throughout the show, very shortly.